I'm Scott from Bego Games, and today I am joined by
Ian from another indie.
And today we are here looking at Sinner. So could you tell us a little bit about the game?
Yeah, Sinner's Sacrifice for Redemption is a Souls-inspired boss battler. So it's all boss fights. There's 7 of them that you can do in any order that you please. And once you've killed all of those bosses, you can then go on and fight the final 8th boss. However, just to keep things interesting, in Sinner we have a unique sacrifice mechanic, which means that for every time you fight a boss, you have to make a sacrifice, and a sacrifice comes in the form of a permanent debuff. So actually in Sinner, at the beginning of the game, you're the strongest that you will ever be, and you get weaker as you progress.
So exactly how does this weaker mechanic, this permanent debuff mechanic, how does that, is that factored in to how the boss fights are created, or are the boss fights still super hard regardless of the debuff?
So the boss fights are always hard, they're all kind of base level tough, so even if you go in at the maximum level, you're never going to find it easy, but obviously they get tougher. So we wanted to create a boss battler, but without a lot of gatekeepering. So we wanted to have that all the bosses are open right at the very beginning. But what that means is that we still need to have a way to increase the difficulty. So we had lots of different ideas of how to do this, but in the end, the one that stuck was, instead of making the bosses more difficult, make the player weaker. And that seems to work really well, and it works well with the themes of the game of sacrifice and redemption and things like that.
So where did the idea for this kind of theme of sacrifice and redemption come from?
So the developers are Chinese, and they're kind of fascinated by Western culture, particularly Western religious culture. So this is almost their interpretation of the Christian sins and what those mean and how that works.
So the seven bosses, who are they? Are they based on the?
Yeah, they're based on the 7 deadly sins. So each one of them has their own character. They're not just one of the sins. They are a character within the game's world, and actually the lore revolves around the bosses, not the main character. He's in their stories, but the bosses are almost more important than he is. But each of them fell to that specific sin. Their downfall revolves around whatever sin it is they embody.
So the big thing with Dark Souls is there's a lot of lore, but it's not. You can get in as much of it as you want to out of it. Is there a lot of kind of lore and world building in the game?
We have a lot of lore about the game, but the game itself is quite sparse on it. There is a big overarching story that players can connect, but it will require some legwork on their part. They will need to kind of go through the information that they have, talk to the NPC, and put together the information they're given about each boss in order to understand everything that happened.
So the game is finished, but it's not currently out. So do you want to say a bit about that and how soon can we expect it?
Soon. So we're doing a simultaneous launch on all platforms, including Switch and PS4, Xbox One, and PC. And the game's done, development's finished. We're just kind of doing all the stuff that we need to do to get it out on those platforms, and that takes time. I hope we'll be launching really soon, but I don't want to get people's hopes too up and then dash them if there's a problem. So I will be announcing the launch date as soon as I can.
So the last game did really well in China. Are you expecting a similar kind of response this time in China?
I think we're going to do very well in China. I'd like to see it 50% China, 50% outside China minimum. Whereas Lost Castle was 70% in China, 30% outside of China. So it will be good to kind of shake that up a bit. But let's see what happens.
So the game is, obviously you said it's a Dark Souls kind of inspired game. Why did you want to make a game that was particularly Dark Souls inspired?
So the developers are huge fans of the Souls series, and I think that's where the real love comes from. But they weren't the biggest fan of the Souls formula. So, the idea of grinding through trash mobs to get to bosses and all that kind of stuff, I think actually they weren't big fans of. So they wanted to kind of make a Souls game, but taking out some of the things that they found frustrating and honing it down. So I think the best thing you can do to think about it is it's Souls, but sharpened to a point. So there's no character creation, there's no level up system, there's no inventory system. It's just fighting. So it really is kind of almost like a pure distilled version of what a lot of people really love about the Souls games.
So obviously there's a lot of kind of mechanics that kind of stripped out, kind of bare bones it. down to that kind of effort. How much more kind of emphasis is there on player skill compared to quite a lot of the newer hack and slash kind of games?
I mean, it's 100%. Like it's all about skill. So there's no way to like min max it or like go for a specific build or find a secret weapon or anything like that. Like it's just you have what you are given, and everybody has the same stuff, and you have to get to the end of the game. So it's all skill based, 100%.
So it's quite a unique art style with the game. Could you tell us a little bit about that and kind of where that idea came from?
So the art style is very heavily influenced by like Asian, particularly Japanese art styles, especially like with the kind of like bigger heads and the slightly cartoonish style of it. It's trying to fuse like the Western kind of medieval style with something a little bit more Asian, which is what the developers really wanted to do, and I think it's come across quite well. Like Adam is kind of cute in a weird way, and the bosses are all kind of like weirdly attractive in like weird ways. Like even the big ugly dude, you know, there's something kind of cute about it. The fact that he's so wobbly and he's got a big belly and he's like, I don't know, it's tough to describe because they're all so fearsome and ugly, but at the same time, kind of lovable.
So the development team was only 9 developers.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's quite a small team for a game, and it's quite a big challenge for someone like this. How long has it taken them to develop the game? Just
2 to 2.5 years, depending on how you like look at it, but about 2.5 years. It's been a lot of work, but the development team's really experienced. This isn't their first project. It's their first project as a studio, but individually they've all worked on big things before. A lot of them are AAA. A lot of them have left AAA to start the studio. So, you know, they've all got a lot of experience. So although it's a big project, they were like very able to do it.
So are you hoping to kind of win over quite a lot of Dark Souls kind of purists with this game?
I hope so. I mean, we've done like quite a lot of like influencer outreach to like the Souls community and Souls streamers, and the response has been fucking great. Like we've had a lot of like really positive feedback. We've had a lot of people streaming the game, a lot of the Souls fans joining our Discord. So I think we've actually managed to find that sweet spot where people appreciate the game for its differences. Like nobody's playing it and going, oh, this is a Souls ripoff. But people who really like Souls games are also playing it and going, okay, this scratches an itch that I didn't know I had. So yeah, I think we're right in that sweet spot.
So the game is hard. Like you can't kind of, obviously the game is very hard. Would you say it's harder than Dark Souls?
I don't know, because the thing with Dark Souls is that it's so big and vast and complicated and labyrinthian, whereas Sinner is not. I think it's tough to say that it's. I think it's tough to say, honestly. I think our bosses are quite tough, especially as you start mounting up the sacrifices. So I think our bosses are easily a match for like the toughest Dark Souls bosses, but I wouldn't know if I would say that they are tougher.
So if you took someone like me, who's not particularly good at games, how long do you think it would take for the average gamer to complete the game?
From playtesting that we've done, it's about 10 to 20 hours. We've had some people that do it way faster than that because they are like savants with the Souls kind of games. But for most people, it's about 10 to 20 hours. We've also had people that take a lot longer.
And obviously, that's quite a lot to do with the kind of stripping out the grinding aspect and all of that.
Yeah.
How much can you expect this to be like retailing at when it's released?
So in the UK, it'll be, I need to do this exactly, but it'll be about 15 to 20 pounds.
And how much do you think it'll be like in terms of in America and those kind of
We're aiming
areas?
for $19. So whatever the conversion is for $19 will be what it is in the UK.
Let me see.
£16, something like that.
So how exactly would someone who's never played this game, like kind of going into it blind, what advice would you give them going into the game?
Take your time. You're gonna die. Like you're not gonna do it immediately. Take your time. Enjoy the experience. The bosses are like really intricate, beautifully designed. They're they have really unique behaviors and patterns that they mix up to keep you on your toes. But like, it's more like a dance than anything else. Like, but to just keep trying, you'll figure it out. We get a lot of people that sit down and play it and then just keep coming back for more and more and more because there's something really enjoyable about it.
Yeah, there's something quite addictive from when I played it about getting that little bit closer.
You get that little bit closer every time you play it, or even if you notice something else every time you do it. So you're always getting better. Like, I mean, we've had like really terrible players sit down and be able to get through the bosses because they can do it. You just need to kind of focus and enjoy.
So if we want to follow the game and see the updates for it and find out when it's going to be launched and everything, where do we find you?
Best place to do that is our Discord, which is discord.gg/AI. But we're also on Sinner and Facebook. We are Sinner the Game. And you can also follow me. I'm Memnock87. And you can follow the company. We're Another Indie S on Twitter.
Okay, thank you very much. So remember to like this video if you've enjoyed it. Remember to tweet us at Bago Games and follow us on Facebook at Bago Games, as well as go to bagogames.com for more articles and interviews like this one.